Good evening and welcome to the June 25th, 2024 City Council Successor Agency meeting, special meeting at 5:32. We'll call this to order and we do have a quorum. Could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Mendoza? Here. Vice Mayor Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Orlemans?
Here.
Councilmember Pearson?
Here.
Mayor Bryant?
Here. If you could join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will open public comments. Turn to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public present in the chambers and on Zoom are permitted to address the City Council on items that are on the closed session agenda. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand to speak under public comment. If you're in person, file a speaker card. We'll take public comments from the chambers, then Zoom. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes per person. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item after the timer has expired, and we received no written public comments for this portion of the agenda.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion to recess to closed session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
We are in recess. Thank you.
I just pressed mute, but.
Good evening. At this time, we are going to reconvene from closed session with nothing to report out. Welcome to the 7:10 City Council Successor Agency meeting of June 25th, 2024. We do have a quorum. Could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Mendoza? Here. Vice Mayor Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Orlemans?
Here.
Councilmember Pearson?
Here.
Mayor Bryant?
Here. If you could join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will open public comments. The comment period for tonight's items will be 5 minutes, and I'll turn it to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public present in the chambers are permitted to address the city council on items that are not on the agenda. Items listed under presentations, informational reports are on the consent calendar. Requests for future agenda items, new request. Comments for the meeting's detailed items or business items should be made when that item is called. Please limit your remark to 5 minutes. The microphone will be muted when the timer expires or if you speak on items that do not pertain to this. I have received no written public comments for this portion of the meeting. The first speaker is Braden.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to be probably the only non-controversial person here today before the early 4th of July fireworks celebration behind me. But I just wanted to say, for anybody at home or in the chamber, if you have any freshmen going to Heritage High School, we are starting our football workouts. They've already started last week on June 17th from 9:30 at the JV baseball field. Must bring the following: cleats, tennis shoes, water, Gatorade, work ethic, and a good attitude. We're going to work really hard all summer long. We have a great coaching staff. Kurt Schneider is the head coach, Russ Robb as the offensive coordinator, and myself as a defensive coordinator. We're going to work hard all year, and we're hopefully going to beat Liberty because I can't stand Liberty. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura.
Hello. I'm just speaking on a whim, and what I want to address is Juneteenth. You knocked it out of the park, girl. You guys did a great job. I thank you. It was so much fun. The entertainment was exceptional. Can I tell you, you set the bar high. Look forward to next year. That's all.
The next speaker is Chris.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Chris Palomo, and I'm a field rep with the NorCal Carpenters Union at a local 152 in Martinez. I'm covering all of Contra Costa County. First, I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here to talk to you guys about implementing pre-qualification language in the city. First and foremost, it is time we demand fair compensation for the hardworking individuals who construct and shape this city. Developers and contractors must be held accountable for paying a livable wage to their workforce. No worker should have to struggle to make ends meet, especially in a city that prides itself on progress and prosperity. By setting and enforcing wage standards that reflect the cost of living, we can ensure that our workers have the financial stability that they deserve. Furthermore, access to health care should not be a luxury reserved for a fortunate few. Developers and contractors must be obligated to provide comprehensive health coverage to their employees. The physical well-being of our workers directly impacts their productivity, morale, and overall quality of life. By guaranteeing health care benefits, we not only prioritize the welfare of our workforce, but also strengthen the entire community's health and resilience. Lastly, we must emphasize the importance of a skill development and fostering a highly skilled workforce. A joint apprenticeship program, which brings together industry experts and aspiring workers, is a powerful tool in achieving this goal. By implementing the use of a state-certified apprenticeship program, developers and contractors can ensure that individuals entering the industry receive the necessary training and guidance that they need. This apprenticeship program will not only provide valuable hands-on experience, but also open doors to long-term career opportunities. In conclusion, we need to elevate labor standards by implementing pre-qualification language that has prevailing wage, healthcare, and a joint apprenticeship program. Having pre-qual language will lead to a more equitable and prosperous city. Not only will workers thrive, but the entire community will reap the benefits. When we prioritize fairness and accountability, we set a strong foundation for our future growth and success in Brentwood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ian.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. It's been a while since I've been here. Sorry, I've been working in Concord. I just left that job. But I just wanted to let you guys know, I just graduated from Heritage High School. For the last 3 years, I've been working in this special thing called the Business Club. And about 1 year ago, it turned into Future Business Leaders of America, the second high school in Contra Costa County to be a part of the world's largest high school business organization. The only other school is Dojerry Valley and San Ramon. So when we went to regionals, I took 8 people. 7 of those people qualified for states down in Anaheim, and I took them down to Anaheim. And there, I brought home 2 awards from the state of California, competing against 2,000 people. I want to let the city council know that this Friday, I am departing for Orlando, Florida, to represent the city of Brentwood and Heritage High School at the national level. I am competing as the 4th place winner for entrepreneurship, a team event where I was the only individual in California to qualify. And I hope to bring home a national title next week to the city of Brentwood and make it better in Brentwood and show my arch rival, Homestead High Cupertino, how this HHS does it out here. Thank you.
The next speaker is Daniel.
Good evening, everybody. I am going to deliver a speech on behalf of someone that I represent as an employee at the city of Brentwood that's not able to do this. I wanted to talk about succession planning and what makes Brentwood a better place to work. There's a lot of stuff that we need to cover in regards to this. A lot of it came out with class and comp study, and we're looking at specifically the wastewater laboratory and positions that are involved in wastewater laboratory. For example, laboratory 2 technicians. And when we're looking at comparative agencies and what it takes to make sure that our wastewater lab and water labs are treated properly and have the adequate staff to do what's required with city requirements, state requirements, federal requirements. The COF study just showed up and was talking about some of these lab assistants positions and what's going on with common done industry practices. This is stuff that we need to address and create some new titles and furthermore bolster our ranks when it comes to the lab assistant positions. We have, a lot of people are unaware, but there's 3 tiers when it comes to PERS retirement. We're currently hiring people that are in tier 3, which are 2% at 62. And there is retention issues that we need to address when we're looking at these stuff. We don't want Brentwood to be a place where people come and train and learn how to do the position and they leave and go to special districts that are offering better compensation packages, better retention packages. We want to keep all these employees with all their years of experience so that way they can spread the wealth of knowledge and get a better ROI on their experience and train younger staff to stay here and keep Brentwood better in Brentwood when it comes to working on all of our projects that we have going on. As you guys have seen, we have a big wastewater lab expansion. We have plenty of wastewater plant jobs that are coming through. Wastewater is huge when it comes to California, and looking at all the future aspects that's going down those technology positions. This is something that we need to bolster our ranks and continue our training and to redouble down on what it takes to retain those positions and get that experience passed along so we can carry the torch and keep Brentwood where it's at. There's 5 whys that I like to ask. The why is, how did the city get so far behind on other agencies using the class and comp study in the first place? Why are the placeholders held at 3% and not reevaluated and changed more frequently when inflation and financial indicators are greater than 3%? Why is the internal alignment process and comp evaluation procedure the city used written down and shared with and agreed upon by labor negotiators? Why aren't special districts used for the comp study for water and wastewater positions, but are used for wastewater and water rate studies? And why isn't there a plan in place to bring positions that are negative double digits in the salary and salary benefits up to the median over a 1 to 3 period? I'd like everyone to take this into consideration and think about all of the hard work that the employees do for the city, and to reevaluate the class and comp study and have more discussions about this going forward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Adam.
Hello, I'm Adam Buskakis. I'm a resident of Brentwood, and I would like to address a couple of things today that I've been living in Brentwood for 10 years now. One thing is that I live on Balfour, and it seems like every single month it's an accident happening there. It was a huge accident happened at the beginning of last month. I don't know if you all know about it. So the overspeeding, and I was suggesting, what can we do about it? Can we put some cameras or something, or something to stop them? I live exactly by Balfour. My home is behind it. And they don't expect nothing. I mean, the police of Brentwood, I have to rate them, it's A+. I mean, it was an accident. It ended up being my neighbor's son. He got rear-ended for somebody from Pittsburgh, 26-year-old drunk, who almost killed a kid. I just saw him today, actually. And due to the police department and the fire department of Brentwood, that guy is alive today. So one thing is this, and the second thing that bothers me is when you exit on Balfour by John Muir and Vic Stewart, it's one in the middle island. There is no any landscaping or nothing. And I was talking to one of your council members, and I say, what can we do about it? Why they don't put some plants or something? That's the first impression. I used to live in San Francisco for 20 years. Somebody who comes out, that's the first thing they're going to see on Brentwood, So that's my suggestion, and I'm here for today. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, can we have staff follow up to make sure those medians on Balfour follow the schematic and the landscaping is done? Because I think that's a pretty simple thing to do, right?
I'd have to look at the area that he's speaking of, but I'll follow up with the gentleman and answer his questions.
Thank you.
Adam, before you leave, is he still here? You disappeared in the crowd. If you could make sure that we have your contact information so that our staff can get in touch with you about your concerns. Okay, thank you.
I have no additional speaker cards.
Thank you. At this time, then, we will close public comments and move into informational reports from council members, committees, liaisons, and staff. Now, start to my left, Councilman Borlemans.
Mayor, can I have one request today? I want to go out of order. And if we could have Councilwoman Pearson speak first, just because I think she has a lot to share about Juneteenth, would that be okay?
Oh,
You
not
mind,
at all.
Tony?
No, we can't have that happen.
Sorry, I don't mean
to.
to, I twice interrupted, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So, Council Member Pearson.
Thank you. I didn't know she was going to ask that, but I'm happy to well, I had a outside meeting with consultant Dan Keene. I went to a LUT meeting and a Juneteenth planning meeting, all to build up to Juneteenth, which was just amazing. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful that the council trusted a vision that I had to do a Juneteenth. I'm grateful to city staff. I'm grateful to, you guys know I'm looking at you over there, Amanda and Stacy. If Tian was here, I'm grateful to you all. And today I took about 3 hours off work because I wanted to express, I wish I can give every person that touched the Parks and Rec, the police, the public works. I wish I could give you all something monetary, but we can't. But I would like just to take this minute, and if it holds everybody else, I think this is warranted for me to call out every name of every person. I wrote a thank you card to every single one. Some of you are here today. If you are Captain Ogrotnik, Captain Schroeder, Lieutenant Lawrence, Lieutenant Aguilar, Lieutenant Pert, Sergeant Manano, and if I pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry. I'm not the person to do, I've done it before, I'm not the person to do graduations. Sergeant Burlette, Officer Laffridge, Officer Kephart, Officer Bonato, Officer Hayes, Officer Rucker, Officer Redding, Officer Strobin, Officer Gibson, Officer Franson, Officer Bloomberg, uh, in the dispatch, Savannah Uvonik, SCSO Ron Stanley, SCSO Dan Efting, and Community Service Officer Kevin Bolis. From the bottom of my heart to our public safety officers, thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for everything you did. And I might get emotional while I read these. Not done. Public works, streets. You guys made sure we got to do a freedom walk. And something warmed my heart when people said they learned something about our history from walking. And we couldn't have had it if Public Works did not close the streets down. So Esteban Hernandez, Gennaro Martinez, Mario Gonzalez, Jim Howard, thank you. Public Works, we have Greg Purity and John Carlson, thank you. Engineering, Steve Cursivan, we give you crap a lot of times about our parking lots, but you made sure everyone was safe for engineering. So if you can hear me, if you hear this, thank you. Tammy Howman, Chris Quinn, Michelle Moray, and Shanna Edwards made sure the damn legal contract got done. Thank you so much for this is accounting and legal. And maybe some of you don't think we pay attention. We know what you do and we appreciate you. I hope you hear me today while you're in this audience. Next up, we have the event prep and day of staff. Sid upstairs in admin, thank you. Amy Sloan, Rachel Owen, Diva Santiago, who's just a badass at her job. Melissa, also like Sid, badass. And Lindsay Pinnell sat in meetings with us on other topics, but I didn't even know Lindsay was working on this. Thank you. Devin Campos, JJ Brannon. Thank you for all your event prep and your day of. Bianca Panalgin, Maya Reed, Angel Rocha, Dean Schmidt, Gabriel Schmidt, Adam Smith, Hudson Smith, and Nikki Williams. Thank you for everything you did the day of. And there's more. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. We had a bunch of day of PR part-time staff. Danny Aguilar, Teresa Barron, Malika Barea, Jesus Contreras, Jesus Corona, Samira Mbaye, David Espinillo, Eleanor Fallows, Harold Fung, Natalie Gamboa, Lance Goulart, Joaquin Hernandez, Kinsey Huerta, Lori Jimenez, Natalie Ochoa, and last but not least, I want to say thank you to Amanda Cheney. And Bruce, thank you so much for sitting in those meetings with us. I know I probably drove you crazy sometimes, but thank you for sitting there being a listening ear. Amanda, you and Stacy are amazing little wizards. And you come up with the best ideas ever. And you were patient with me. And Tian, wherever you are, you all were so patient with all of my desires and wants, and you made it possible. And Chief Herbert, thank you for listening, and thank you for implementing. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I appreciate you for your wisdom and everything, for everyone I named. And if I haven't named you, I appreciate you so much, and my heart is full because I sat in the middle of the street, and some cities had people shot and killed during Juneteenth, and that's not the nature of what Juneteenth was about. Some people said it wasn't fun, but that day, it was a family reunion, and it was for all people, for all things, and so I'm just so grateful. So my heart is full. Thank you to everybody. So that's it. That's my report.
Top that, Councilman Orlemans.
I'll do my best. Since the last council meeting, I'm going to skip my normal report and I'm going to go to a couple of highlights. One of them was Juneteenth. Amazing event. I'm really glad it was put on and it showed the unity of Brentwood. It was nice to see a lot of members of my church that I attend here in Brentwood were there. I've gotten text messages and emails talking about how amazing that event was. So I appreciate everything you did putting it on. I appreciate everything staff did making it happen and making it work as well as it did. I know it took a lot of you away from that holiday with family and gave you the opportunity to celebrate it with this family. So we appreciate the fact that everyone did that. The only other part I would like to add was I got the opportunity today to sit down with a few employees of the city of Brentwood, and you're all appreciated. No matter what you may feel, no matter how sometimes we make you feel, we care about each and every one of you. I know there were a lot of names read off, and you guys did a phenomenal job. But every one of you show up to work every single day and create a phenomenal city that everybody's trying to move to. Over the past 20 years, we've increased by almost 40,000 residents. Well, it's not because of the 5 of us who sit up here or them who sit at the other sides. It's because you show up to work every day, you pick up their trash, you make sure the streets are perfect, you make sure they've got water, you make it a safe place for citizens to live. And I don't think we tell all of you thank you enough. Matter of fact, I know we don't, because I heard about it today. And I know I'm extremely remiss in who I am for not having done this every single council meeting that I've been to since I've been elected. You guys are why Brentwood is amazing. You keep being you, and you keep doing what you do, because this is a great city because of you. Thank you.
So there's literally no way I can beat either one of them. Both really well said. Thank you for that. I'm going to go through the list because there's a few things I wanted to point out. The VFW, along with the American Legion Post 202 and the Marine Corps League Detachment, held a luau recently. It was a fundraiser, and it was phenomenal. It was at the VFW, and the community was great. The food was great. The dancers were phenomenal. The musicians were phenomenal. Really successful event. I would like to urge people, if you know of any veterans, to get involved. I think they could really use some new blood taking part in the VFW activities. I met with the new Contra Costa County Animal Services Department Director, Winkleblack. We, last year, as a council, agreed to promote an amendment to a county ordinance about extreme heat and animals being left outdoors. And he was not aware of it. He's new, but he hadn't been brought up to date on that. So we have to kind of start that advocacy over again. People have been reaching out to me about it. So I'm going to advise people to reach out directly to him to advocate about it. I do want to say that Juneteenth was just about everything it could have been. I think when you brought it to us with your vision, we were all behind you, but it exceeded just all expectations. And I think the amount of people that came from other cities to join us in this celebration, you look around and all you saw was happy faces and people that felt welcome and part of the community. And that was just a beautiful thing. And people have reached out to me to see if we're doing it again next year. And people from other cities, electeds from other cities were here. And there's pictures all over the place of that. So to staff and all the volunteers and the attendees, and it just was fantastic. I think everyone did a great job. I did meet with a group of Brentwood moms that have adult children with disabilities. And their feeling is that there's no place for housing for them in Brentwood and not enough activities for programming of adults with disabilities. So we have an ad hoc and we're looking at some of those issues. We'll continue to look at those issues. I'm skipping a few things, but I would absolutely agree to thank you all for coming too, because it's an evening, you've had a long day of work. We appreciate that you took the time to come and state your case and remind us that you are still needing some feedback and needing some things from us, but thank you very much for being here and for all you do as well.
Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you for coming. I always say I want to see this chamber full every meeting to the gills, so I appreciate you being here. It's important that we hear you and that we see you, so thank you for that, or you see you on the Zoom, that counts too. So this last, I can't say enough good things about Juneteenth. It was phenomenal. I've been here over 20 years and I've seen a lot of change. I love the change. I know sometimes change can be hard, but this is good change and this is easy change. So thank you, Pat Tanisha, for everything you did. Thank you, staff, for everything you did. And yeah, I just got a call from a neighboring city's mayor. Like, we had electeds out here and they just thought our event was awesome. They're like, we're going to keep our event, but your guys' event was awesome. So you're the talk of the county, just so you know, everyone loved it. And then things that I did, attended a land use and economic development meeting. There was a new ladder truck that will go up to, I think they said 9 stories at the station, 7 stories or 9, at the station over on Balfour. So they had the blessing and the push in for that truck. It was great to see Father Bob. He was my priest when I was like 4 years old. We did meet with Dan Keene, our consultant, Cal City's Housing Committee meeting. I attended the town hall with Tim. We need to figure out how to get people at these town halls. I'd like to see it like this every time. One of the things that I do during the year that is bittersweet is a walk, and it's the Miles for Mayo walk, which is Matthias Rogers. And if you remember Matthias, he's the young gentleman that passed away on Sellers 3 years ago. So this was his memorial walk. Attended the Seroptimus wine tasting and the Lions Club installation event. So I had a couple of luau's. I also attended the luau for the VFW. And today was the Cal City's Legislative Discussion Forum. I urge all of you, especially you employees that see what happens when the state sends bills down. We're stuck implementing them, and sometimes they're hard to do so. Please call your representatives if you're not happy with the bill. If you're curious about bills going on, call me. We can talk about bills going on. I always have an opinion about different bills. Or I can send you decks that we review from the legislative review on what the impact is to the city. It impacts us financially. It's, some of them are not good. So if you're ever upset about something that the state does, pick up a phone, call your rep, send an email. It always helps. So thank you.
Thank you. When I said top that, Councilman Orlemans, I didn't know that you actually could do that. But I also want to thank all of you for being here. I know that you have sacrifices that most of the community sleep through. Our law enforcement, our police officers, our first responders. You miss birthdays, wedding anniversaries, significant moments, just so that we can be safe. Every department, all of our streets department, there's not a single time that I've had people in our community come to me that they weren't giving me specific examples of how some of you have made a difference in their life. When you didn't have to, you've gone above and beyond something that wasn't necessarily in your job description, but you were there and you took care of whatever the need was at the time. And it is an absolute fact that this city can only be what it is because of you. And so the appreciation that I have for you and the council has expressed for you, but not just that, for the 60-some thousand residents that you help their lives be normal every day. They have everything they need when they need it. And it couldn't be done without you. And you bring excellence to everything you do. There's a reason why every department that I'm aware of is regularly getting national and state recognition for being the best of the best. And so I just want you to know that you're very much appreciated. And thank you for being here tonight. Since the last time we met, I was at the Habitat Conservancy meeting. We are working, the Habitat Conservancy, which City of Brent was a part of, is working to purchase an additional several pieces of property to keep them perpetually in their natural state so that they can be appreciated by our residents. And we also partner, the HCP partners with the East Bay Regional Park and the state parks to have access to that. So at some point within the next, hopefully 3 to 5 years, at the end of Balfour across Deer Valley Road, there's going to be some access in the former Roddy Ranch property to have access to many thousands of acres for equestrian hiking, cycling, that we can just go right to the end of the road, and we can be on trail systems all the way down to South San Francisco. So that'll be really nice. We're working to do that through the HCP. Of course, Juneteenth, I don't know if there's anything else that can be said. That was a phenomenal event, and I got to meet one of the individuals that I have had a musician crush on all my life. And I'm telling you, for a man in his 70s, he has the exact same strength of voice and personality as always through the Tower of Power years, and it was really great. Also, I got to attend the theater opening downtown. That's going to be something that really is a lot of fun. All of our businesses and all of our individuals downtown that bring everything downtown and bring the families. We have a community that works together, that there are events that are happening downtown. Brentwood on Ice is one of them, where I've had people tell me that they flew in from out of state to be here during that process and bring their family members from up and down the state, and they meet here because of events that we're able to partner with our businesses in the community. And so it's really an awesome opportunity to show everybody your great work. And so thank you for that. At this time, we will move. Do we have any city updates during this time? Okay. So at this time, we'll move into informational reports from council members, or we just did that. Okay. Consent calendar. I would like to pull item F3. Do I have a motion on the consent calendar?
I make a motion that we adopt the consent calendar absent item F3.
A second.
Okay, we have a first and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It moves. Item F3 is a proclamation proclaiming July as Parks and Recreation Month. And Bruce, if you could assist with this.
Yes, so we have some staff here, some of our part-time staff, and I'd like to have Amanda and Stacy come forward, as well as our part-time staff, to accept this proclamation. We also actually have several Parks and Recreation full-time staff, I think, in the audience as well. So maybe when we're done, we can have them at least stand as well. So Mayor, while you're coming up, our part-time staff, or our frontline staff that see our residents of Brentwood every single day out in the field, and a lot of times we get recognition from full-time staff here, and our part-time staff just never get enough recognition. So here's some of the representatives of about 150 part-time staff that work in our department every single day, touching our residents in different ways, from our facilities to aquatics to our recreation programming. So we brought some of them here to be recognized. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Man, before I go into this proclamation, I would like for our two superstars that we see and hear all the time, who are really the face of our community to much of our guests that come into town. If you would like to say something about your wonderful team.
Should have known that was going to happen. Brentwood is such a great city for people to live in because of all of our full-time and part-time staff, and I don't think there's enough words for us to express how much this city just wouldn't be what it is without everybody in this room and everybody listening and everybody who's not here right now. And as Bruce mentioned, for our department, this is a representation of 150 part-time employees that we have that we just absolutely couldn't do anything without. And I think one of the things that we really try to embody is the fact that this isn't just a job, that people do this work because they have a passion for public service. And that's certainly true in all of our staff. And so we appreciate everything they do every day, their leadership, their positive attitudes, their genuine joy in doing what they do. And recreation is something that's really important and vital for people's existence. And this is the month where we get to celebrate that. So we can't say thank you enough to you guys. They're the best.
So at this time, I'll read the proclamation. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Brentwood. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing, maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Brentwood recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, therefore be it proclaimed, the City Council of the City of Brentwood does hereby declare the month of July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Brentwood. Thank you very much.
Do you want me to let them introduce themselves?
Oh, yes, that would be wonderful. If we could have them all introduce themselves.
And where and what area?
Hi, my name's Taylor, and I work for the front desk staff.
Hi, I'm Joanne, and I have programs over at the Brentwood Senior Center.
My name's Teresa, and I'm here representing the facilities rental staff.
Hi, my name's Emma Torres, and I'm here representing all of Aquatics for Parks and Rec.
Hi guys, I'm Kenzie Heather, and I am representing youth camps and classes in the community center.
Hi, I'm Madeline, and I'm representing sports and classes.
Thank you very much.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Before I do, Margaret, if you could read anything that needs to be read.
Yes. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Brentwood approving a zoning text amendment to the Brentwood Municipal Code, RZ 24-001, amending Title 17 zoning ordinance and amending Chapter 2.36020, Chapter 8.36035, Chapter 8.48030, Chapter 9.12050, updating references to current fire services provider.
Thank you. At this time, I move item F3.
I'll second that, but I will say next time I'm advocating for a park, I will be reading that resolution. Just so y'all know.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Item moves. Before we go into the next listed hearings, if we could, with the agreement of council, if we could move item H2 to now, I would appreciate it. Item H2 is a resolution approving Midway Alley to be renamed Helen Myers Way. Just before we get into this, I want to say what a tremendous impact that Helen Myers had on the city of Brentwood. Not just being an amazing person, but through economic development and just the core leadership of several of the public service and service groups that were here in town. She was just a leader in every aspect, and her family continues to be an integral part of this community. And the fact that she had a business downtown that abutted up to this alley, and the fact that she just recently passed away, I think this would be a great opportunity to honor her for her outstanding leadership. So at this time, Casey Wickert will report.
Sure. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Longtime Brentwood resident Helen Myers passed away on April at the age of 98. As many of you know, she was instrumental in the evolution of the town of Brentwood. She was a founding board member of the Delta Community Center, raised funds for Brentwood's first community center, served on the Arts Commission, served with the local Seroptimus International chapter for 29 years. She was the owner of 2 downtown businesses, the Weather Vane and Irene's Dress Shop. And she was a longtime member of the Brentwood Chamber of Commerce. So she was also recognized as Citizen of the Year in 2008. Not many people accomplished that. So when this item was brought before us, staff was happy to prepare this staff report for your consideration and think it's well deserved.
Thank you. Are there any clarifying questions of staff at this time regarding this item? Okay, at this time, we'll open public comments. Margaret?
At this time, the public present in the chambers and Zoom are permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand to speak under public comment. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comments from the chambers first, then Zoom. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. And we received no written public comments for this item. I have no speaker cards in person. We do have one speaker that would like to speak.
I lost my voice, so sorry about it. Did the speaker card. I want to say thank you to city staff, Tim, Mayor Bryant, council members. This is very important. Thank you, Casey, for that. You're spot on. She was very instrumental, and this is one way that I felt would be a great honor for her and for people to really kind of remember that knew her. I wish she would have made it. This project was in the back of my mind about 4 years ago, and unfortunately, she didn't quite make it. So I just want to say thank you.
I have no additional speaker cards, and I see no hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, at this time, we'll close public comments, move into council discussion. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, PJ, thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm sure your grandma would be I'm sure she was very proud of you. You carry on her work, and I don't think people realize how much you do, which is a testament to how hard she worked and also did so much. So thank you for doing what you do today, and thank you for having brought this forward to honor your grandmother.
I just want to say when we first moved to town in 2001, having been raised on a ranch, that was one of the first places that I took my family downtown Brentwood, and it made us feel very at home. And we walked in, and if any of you knew Helen Myers, she was a very dynamic person. And she was in the back room at the time, and I brought my family in, and she stuck her head out, saw us. She said, "I'm back here working. If you need anything, just holler." And we did. And I looked at my wife, and I said, "We moved to the right place. This is awesome." So she was just really an outstanding person that made you feel very, very welcome and a part of the community very quickly. So having said that, is there a motion for approval on this item?
I move to approve the resolution renaming Midway Alley as Helen Myers Way in honor of the late Helen Myers.
And I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. The item moves. Thank you, PJ.
How soon do the signs go up?
Probably a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
So at this time, we'll move into public hearings, item G1. This next item is related to a general plan
Mayor,
amendment.
Just, Ed, and I'm not 100% sure, but I would say a majority of that audience sitting out there is looking for item G3, if we can move it up.
We can certainly do that if it's amenable with council. Okay, item G3. Okay, this next item is the 2024-25 through 25-26 operating budget adoption. And Christine Andrews, our Assistant Director of Finance, will quickly switch places smoothly. Thank you, Christine.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The action before you tonight is the final adoption of the 24-25, 25-26 operating budget, along with recommended adjustments to the current fiscal year 23-24 budget. I'd like to briefly cover the two-year budget process that led us to this final step tonight. The city prepares an operating budget every 2 years, and all city departments assisted with the initial budget draft and internal reviews were performed. This process was followed by meetings with the Budget Ad Hoc Committee to review both the draft Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, and operating budget prior to their presentation to the full City Council at separate CIP and operating budget workshops for City Council direction and public input. The CIP was adopted in May, and all of the capital project expenditures and funding from the CIP are incorporated into this budget. City Council direction received at the May operating budget workshop has also been incorporated into the final version being presented tonight. The operating budget contains very detailed information on all cities' funds, revenues, expenditures, and projected fund balances. For this presentation, I wanted to go over just a few of the highlights. The proposed operating budget is $382 million and provides funding for all ongoing services provided by the city, such as police, parks, and street maintenance, along with water, wastewater, and solid waste services. This budget includes funding and budgets for the carryover and completion of major strategic plan projects in the upcoming 2 fiscal years that will maintain and enhance the higher standard of living of our residents. These projects include the Sand Creek Sports Complex, which will construct multi-use sports fields and park amenities, the Sand Creek Road extension from the existing State Route 4 on and off ramp to Hydorn Ranch Road, Innovation Center at Brentwood infrastructure to facilitate economic development in an area that is the focal point for job creation, improvement of the City Hall parking garage security and safety, phased construction of open air stage and event space at the vineyards at Marsh Creek Development, and the solid waste organics diversion project, allowing the city to comply with new state organics regulations. The budget also includes a balanced general fund budget that maintains the general fund's 30% reserve. The city is also continuing its practice of paying down unfunded pension obligations with additional lump sum contributions that will result in reduced costs over the long term. Finally, the budget includes the costs for 10 new city positions. 8 of these positions will be in the city's enterprise funds and will allow for a new wastewater lateral repair program, ensuring that aging connections from residences and businesses to the sewer system are kept up, as well as allowing the city to accommodate growth in solid waste collection routes and staffing to maintain geographic information system infrastructure. 2 positions would be added to the general fund budget, one to provide enforcement for new regulations, and one to support DEI programs. Next, I will focus on direction received from the City Council at the operating budget workshop and how this has changed our general fund projection. At the budget workshop in May, the 23-24 budget surplus was estimated to be about $800,000. After incorporating the City Council's direction to reserve this surplus in the general fund at the end of 23-24 for future capital projects, the 23-24 projection is now approximately break even. The City Council also gave the following direction related to the 24-25, 25-26 operating budget, including a placeholder cost estimated at $702,000 for lighting at the basketball courts at Homecoming and Windsor Parks. Add one-time budgets of $50,000 for the cost to develop an equity strategic plan and $10,000 for an economic development micro-business launch program. Add annual salary and benefit costs of just under $200,000 per year for a new equity analyst position. And finally, add an additional $20,000 per year to the general fund budget for the Juneteenth celebration for a total annual funding of $45,000 for the event. At the budget workshop in May, the estimated two-year budget surplus was about $1.6 million. After incorporating the City Council's budget workshop direction, along with updates to the budget savings calculation and 30% reserve requirements, the current two-year projection shows a surplus of about $800,000. 50% of any actual surplus at the end of a fiscal year would be used to pay down pension liabilities, and 50% would be transferred to the Budget Stabilization Fund. The 10-year fiscal model has also been updated for the budget changes since the workshop, and the budget stabilization balance is now projected to be about $13 million at the end of the 10-year term, a reduction of about $5 million from the workshop projection. Now we'll discuss other updates to the operating budget made since the workshop. Based on direction received at the workshop, there was an increase of $15,000 to the 23-24 projected expenditures, an additional $25,000 to the 24-25 budget in the Parks and LLED Replacement Fund for the resurfacing of the basketball courts at Homecoming and Windsor Parks. There were other miscellaneous adjustments made to other funds reflecting new and updated budget information since the workshop, as detailed in the staff report. Staff is proposing adjustments to the current 23-24 operating budget for certain LED funds to accommodate utilities and other maintenance costs coming in higher than what was anticipated in the original budget. Finally, the City Council gave direction at the workshop to update the CIP for certain projects. Those changes have been incorporated into the operating budget, and updated CIP sheets are included as an attachment to tonight's staff report. The comprehensive general plan update timing was moved up, and a reserve established in the general fund for the cost of the project. The Windsor Way replacement project timing was moved up to next fiscal year. The aquatic complex locker room project was moved out a year to accommodate the change in timing of the Windsor Way replacement project. And finally, a new project is proposed to explore basketball court lighting at both Homecoming and Windsor Way Park. Before concluding, I would like to cover economic and legislative issues that may have an outsized impact on our future budgets. As discussed at the budget workshop, while it seems nobody can accurately predict a recession, there is considerable uncertainty in the near future, which could be made worse by rising geopolitical tensions. Also, persistently high long-term inflation would have a significant impact on the budget, as the city has very little control over revenue increases. The budget includes placeholder cost of living increases for personnel salaries of 3% per year. With labor costs making up almost 2/3 of the general fund budget, the outcome of labor negotiations could have a significant impact on the city's financial forecast. Although CalPERS returns look like they may be close to target in the current fiscal year, future pension and retiree medical costs are heavily dependent on future CalPERS investment returns. And if targets are missed, CalPERS will increase the city's contributions to make up for any shortfall. And finally, an update on the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act ballot measure discussed at the workshop. While the measure had secured enough signatures for inclusion on the November 2024 ballot and would have adopted new and restrictor rules for raising revenues and fees, the governor's and legislature's challenge filed with the California Supreme Court resulted in a decision to remove the measure from the ballot. This has relieved the concern noted at the workshop. However, staff will continue to monitor this issue and provide updates if necessary. The next review of the city's fiscal condition and budget will be in about 6 months in January 2025 at the mid-year review. Then the midterm operating budget review will be presented in June of 2025. I'd like to thank the City Council and the Budget Ad Hoc Committee for their input and direction in helping create the final document before you tonight. Thank you. This concludes my presentation, and at this time, staff would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any clarifying questions?
On slide number 7, the $78,000 in additional for LLAD expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that come out of a district or the general fund?
That comes out of the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further clarifying questions of staff? Okay, seeing none at this time, I will now open the public hearing. Margaret?
At this time, the public present in the chambers and on Zoom are permitted to address the City Council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand to speak under public comment. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comment from the chambers, then Zoom. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item or after the timer has expired. The city did receive 111 written public comments for this item by 3 p.m. today. They've been posted on the city's website. I have 2 speaker cards for this item. I'll call on Heather.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Heather Silfies, and I have been employed with the city for 20 years. Earlier today, you received 111 letters signed by city employees concerning this operating budget item. And I would like to take a few moments to read the letter. I would also like to submit an additional 23 signed letters I have received since then to the city clerk when I am finished. Being sensitive of your time and to save repetition of similar comments, I would like to invite members of tonight's audience who submitted similar comments or share my concern to stand while I read this letter. For members watching on Zoom, please raise your hand. At the budget workshop held on May 28th, staff proposed a baseline 2024-2025 budget of $378 million, of which $78.1 million would be general fund spending. The 2-year budget projected a total general fund surplus of $1.6 million, or $800,000 per budget year. During the budget workshop, council requested additional general fund spending of approximately $1.2 million over the 2-year period. Some of that consisted of one-time expenditures, while some costs would be ongoing well beyond the life of the 2-year budget. During the workshop presentation, staff identified a number of unknowns that could affect the city's budget in the coming years. These included economic uncertainty, inflation, labor contracts, Costco timing, CalPERS returns, and the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act ballot measure. While we now have more clarity on some of these items, like Costco and the ballot measure, other items remain uncertain. Specific to labor contracts, the draft budget contains a placeholder of 3% cost of living adjustment per year. While that figure does provide some budgetary guidance, it does not take in the high inflationary environment nor the city's competitiveness with other jurisdictions into account. The 3% figure also does not take inequities revealed through the class and comp study into account. While these issues are not being discussed as part of this item, it is vital that all parties involved continue to maintain their abilities to negotiate in good faith. We respectfully request that the additional general fund spending of approximately $600,000 per fiscal year be reconsidered at this time. By removing this additional spending from the budget, City Council maintains the ability to negotiate in City Council maintains the city's ability to negotiate in good faith with the employee associations. To be clear, we are not asking for the additional spending to be eliminated altogether, but rather to be delayed for consideration until the negotiation process is complete, hopefully in the near future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next speaker is Ian.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I was about to compliment the city on our fiscal responsibility. I feel like every other city in this Bay Area is cutting costs. Antioch, Oakland, San Jose, name your city, they're going through a financial crisis. Even San Ramon, because they're losing their top employer, Chevron, to Texas. But just listening to city staff, I used to be a city staff myself, and 3%, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be an accounting major at Cal State East Bay, and I don't wanna bash a city that I wanna work for, but 3% in this economy sounds like garbage. Inflation is just going through the roof. One month I could be paying $5 for gas, another month I could be paying almost $3. It is outrageous. As someone who moves jobs because of pay, I commute now half an hour just to make more money because the jobs in Brentwood are not as quality or not as stable as I need them to be. I recommend staff to consider the council to consider the staff all behind me, they're there, and consider raising that cost of living figure from 3% to probably 5% or wherever the federal, honestly, wherever the mortgage rate is. Because if I'm paying 6% for a brand new car loan, why is the city considering 3% in raises? That's not the economy we're living in. And take it from someone who's a Generation Z, I'm gonna be living in this crappy economy for a while, and it just sucks. And I preach as the founder of the Future Business of America to live within your means, and it's very hard right now in this economy. I work 2 jobs just to be able to afford, plus I dog sit and do so many side gigs. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 hands raised in Zoom. I'll call on, 1 hand raised in Zoom. I'll call on Sabrina. Sabrina, go ahead. And I'm thinking she does not want to speak. I have no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. At this time, then we will close public comments, and I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is moved. Okay, moving to council discussion.
I mean, I think it's hard. It's not an easy thing to sit here and do this, but I don't know. It's just hard. This is my first one where we're doing negotiations and a budget at the same time, so it's difficult, and sitting up here is difficult, but I think that we have the budget. I didn't agree with some of the items, but, that's what's in the budget, so we'll go from there. I think, it's the general plan update. I thought we could hold off on that, but, the majority of the council wants it, so it's in there.
We were watching competing lights going on. What I would agree with what Councilor Member Mendoza just said is that there are items in there that probably each one of us has some doubts about, but the majority of council is in support of them. Someone suggested holding off on the final approval of a budget until the negotiations are done. We can't talk about what happens in closed session, but we are really trying our best to make sure that you're all represented. I actually don't have a problem with holding off until negotiations. I don't know how big of a deal that would be, what that would impact, what it would look like to hold that off until negotiations are done. Yes, that's a Carrie question.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. So I think you mentioned holding off on the budget, and I think what I heard was a request to hold off on some additions to the budget. I certainly would not recommend not adopting a budget.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, we can do that. So we're here tonight to adopt your budget. And if you have changes to the budget, we will make those changes. And if you have direction to return at another point in time with those additions to bring them back, we will do that. So we can make that work. What we would need is specific direction in a resolution that says we adopt this budget except for or with the revisions of, and then list them so that we know that those items need to be removed from the budget.
To be clear, I'm not specifically saying I wouldn't want to approve the additional expenditures we were talking about. I'm more trying to address the good faith request that came up. So I'd love to hear what other people think on that.
Is it possible for us to adopt the budget minus the general plan amendments, funds that we talked about and kind of hold them in reserve? I think at the last meeting, I echoed the sentiment of Councilmember Orlemans about how important it is for us to do the update. And I think it's necessary that we do move sooner than later, so I don't want to push it off. But if we're going to operate in good faith, I think that may be a suggestion that I'd like to entertain from all of the council members.
I think that's fair.
I would feel good about that.
Councilman Orlemans?
There are other items within that budget that we could move or adjust to accomplish the same $1.2 million savings that the 111 letters had asked for. I'm pretty passionate about leaving the general plan update and funds in place, in place, but I am also committed to the citizens of Brentwood to do what they've asked us to do, which is govern the city and making decisions as to the budget, and finalizing the budget is what we've been elected to do. How that money is spent and where it goes when we do move it, it is not always very popular, and as has been said by other council members, very difficult to do sitting up here. Councilmember Mendoza mentioned that this is her first time doing it, a budget and a negotiation at the same time. And it was my first time of seeing and completely comprehending all of these budgets, and my second time ever seeing a budget, the city's budget, a budget of that size. So it is very overwhelming. It is very confusing, and it does take a lot of work on our part. As a former employee for the city of Brentwood, I sit in a unique spot on this dais, and I would kind of like to take a second and just see if I can explain it from this position. As a Brentwood police officer and sergeant for 10 years, I asked the city council to give me the benefit of the doubt when it came to, was I doing the right thing? Was I doing my job correctly? And if there was a complaint against me, I didn't expect them to blindly back me, but I expected them to give me the benefit of the doubt. I also, as a city employee, would look at my council and give them the benefit of the doubt, that they're truly trying to do the best thing they can for the city with the restrictions and the guidelines that we currently have. Now, it's not an easy job, but I asked for it. I don't know why, but I asked for it. And I got this job, and we are all trying to do the best we can. I said that at the beginning of the meeting when I got the opportunity to speak, that Brentwood is as great as it is because of the employees that work here. and you're all trying to make Brentwood a great place, a better place to be, a wonderful community to grow up in or to live in. But that's exactly what all 5 of us are doing. And it doesn't seem that way when we get heated up here occasionally and we argue and we say things that necessarily aren't the nicest to some people. But our true goal, if there's any doubt in any of your minds, all 5 of us want the best for the city of Brentwood. I assume all of you want the same thing. We have to learn to work together so that we can make that happen. Because if we keep bumping heads and keep assuming the worst of each other, this isn't going to work. It's going to be this constantly. We have to show force that this is what we want. God bless every one of you for being here, because it does show unity. It does show who you are and what you're passionate about. But we have to run the city. We have to finalize the budget. We have to make things move forward. I would give up the budget stabilization, I'm sorry, the general plan update, or put it on hold, not give it up, but place that money back into a holdings position for it, if that would help move this forward and make you guys feel like we aren't trying to railroad anything past you guys. We're trying to work with you.
Carrie, can you again tell us the amount for thank you, Councilman Orlemans. I agree with everything you said. Can you tell us the amount for the general plan update? And I don't want to bump it. I just want to put it on a temporary, put a pin in it.
Councilmember, the amount of the increase in the reserve was about $1,054,000 that increased the reserve to get us to the point where we had the full funding for the general plan update. That was the movement since the workshop.
So I'm
sorry, can you say that number again?
The full funding?
1,054.
But what's the full funding?
1,350,000. We already had a little bit set aside.
So the total amount is 1,350.
1,350 for the total project cost.
Okay, thanks.
But the reserve was increased by about that million.
Did you have further?
No.
I would be okay with also delaying that. We rarely get an opportunity like we have tonight to speak directly to not only our community that we represent, but the body that we do our best to serve. So I'm just going to speak from my perspective. It is my highest and greatest desire to make Brentwood a place that every one of our employees and our staff love to come to work at every day. And that only benefits everybody. If I'm happy to go to work and I'm loving the place that I go to work, and if I'm, in addition, invested as a resident, and I have my family that lives here, the quality of life that my family has, my neighbors have, and everybody in here, that relies squarely upon the shoulders of every one of the staff in the city that shows up every day and does an outstanding job. In the environment that we are in the state and in the country, as far as a work environment, it is not easy to want to show up to work every day with all the stuff and all the pressures and all of the conflict in every aspect that you have to, but you show up anyway. As a council person, I want to make a budget that is as close to making everyone happy as possible. Unfortunately, that's nearly impossible. What I don't want, And what I think is absolutely, under any circumstance, unacceptable is to allow the city to get into a position that you are not taken care of when you're retired, that you show up to work and your paychecks aren't there. And I know that sounds extreme, and it is, but you don't have to look very far south or east to look at a city just a few years ago that went bankrupt and had their own employees, own staff members show up. Their retirement's gone, their paychecks are gone. Stockton was in that position. I cannot allow this city to get in anywhere close to that position. And so I just want you to know that our council has stated it, but I also am stating it. I want you to be happy, and I want you to be equitably remunerated for the work that you do. There's no way to pay what you do or what you do to this city in other things other than the job that you do. All you have to do is look around us and see the condition of other cities in the Bay Area and the condition of Brentwood. You're the reason that we are in this position. But in order to maintain that and make it sustainable, we're going to have to find a way to have a budget that enables us to continue the quality of life that we have, that many of you have. You live here, many of you. And the quality of a work environment that you have. And so that's my goal. And it is not easy. And sometimes it's impossible. But I want to get as close to that as possible. And I just wanted you to know that in an environment that I can look you in the eye and tell you that. But yes, I would also agree to the postponing of that.
So Carrie, how do we do that in the budget? Because if we don't spend it according to city policy, see, I pay attention. It goes half to surplus and half to pension pay down.
Exactly. So thank you. I would recommend that as part of your motion, you instruct us not, so if the motion is to take 1.2 million off the general plan reserve and to free it up, I would ask that in the motion, you specify that 1.2 million or whatever the number is not subject to the city policy, which requires half of any surplus to go to pay down pension obligations, or otherwise 600,000 per policy would have to go, of the 1.2 would have to go. So you're absolutely correct. And we would need to hear that as part of the motion. Otherwise our city policy will be in conflict.
Okay, I think we have how much do we have in that account for this year? I mean, for this budget?
In the reserve?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. So in the reserve for the general plan update, the reserve was going to be 1.4 million approximately, because there's some other reserves for future updates. So there's about 1.4, 1.5 roughly in that general plan reserve that was going to be spent out 1.35 million in the next year.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to say, can we be clear in the motion that this is a good faith effort to show respect for our staff and to just acknowledge that this is a temporary hold until we figure out what's going on with the negotiations, and we will be readdressing everything once that is done.
Okay, do I have a motion on this item?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that I move to adopt a resolution approving the 2024-2025 through 2025-2026 operating budget, absent the removal of 1.2 of general plan reserves, to be held as a good faith measure during negotiations, not subject to the city's policy to pay down pension obligations, with the remaining to be reserved for the general plan update.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Staff, do you have any need for clarification? Okay, thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
The item moves.
I move to approve a resolution, oh wait.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I move to approve a resolution adopting the 2024, 2025 through 2025, 2026 operating budget for the former Brentwood Redevelopment Agency funds.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye. Thank you.
The item moves. Margaret, do you have any? Okay, thank you. So before we move into the next item, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're in recess at this time. At this time, we will reconvene from recess. We will move into item G1, and this item is related to a general plan amendment of the safety element. And Jennifer Hagan, Senior Planner, will begin the presentation. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The application before you tonight is a general plan amendment to update the safety element as it relates to our recently certified housing element and government code in compliance with state law. The state requires every city to have a safety element as part of its general plan. The general plan is a long-term visioning document that guides the future development of the city and sets forth its priorities for initiatives and programs through various goals and policies for each element. The safety element specifically includes methods to reduce the plan for potential risks associated with natural disasters and public emergencies. The safety element includes goals and policies that outline preparedness methods and mitigation efforts to address such risks associated with wildfires, floods, geologic and seismic hazards, hazardous materials, noise, and man-made disasters. The element is focused on planning around future development, and for existing development, the plan encourages strengthening disaster preparedness planning and post-disaster recovery through collaboration with partnerships with other agencies such as the Contra Costa County Fire District and the County Flood Control District. While the safety element includes overall goals for these efforts, including what is important to the city, the actual implementation of such goals will come through other documents and standards such as the zoning ordinance, objective design standards, as well as other guidelines from other agencies such as Contra Costa County Fire District. As part of your packet tonight, staff has included the revised safety element and background analysis known as the Climate Vulnerability Assessment for your consideration, and is requesting that the City Council approve the recommended general plan amendment. And with that, that concludes staff's report. City staff, as well as our consultant team from Kimley Horn, are available via Zoom tonight, and we are available for any questions you may have.
Clarifying questions of staff?
I just have a question about the budget. So it said that general fund was $235,000 and federal state agency funds were $331,000. Is that, how close did we come to budget on that? Do you know?
Can you note where you're seeing those budget numbers?
I'm looking at the CIP file on the one on the website. It's page 111 for that CIP project. So I just was wondering how close we came to budget.
So this budget, it's actually part of the overall housing element budget. So this is lumped in with the housing element budget. So we are still underway as part of our implementation of the housing element. So this is only one of the tasks that is still needed to be completed as part of that CIP budget. But most likely we will be at full budget at the conclusion of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any further clarifying questions?
Yeah,
Councilman
thank you.
Ford? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Vice Mayor.
sorry. Was your light on?
Nope, nope.
Okay. My question is actually around Measure Q, because there's a lot of talk in here about open space, hillside, rural areas with different levels of fire risk and fire-resistant native vegetation as buffers for those fire risks. And I know that, or at least I believe that we have not been considered a high risk in these areas, but Measure Q is allowing us to have more areas be specifically open space. And so I'm wondering, and Deer Ridge is a good example, and there's constantly efforts to try and keep the weed abatement down and make sure that we're in compliance with the fire district and the rest of it. So I wondered if there was any kind of connection between Measure Q and its impacts because of the open space that we've now been able to approve.
Not that we've seen so far. The fire hazard maps are routinely updated through CAL FIRE and the fire department. The most recent maps that were included in this were our 2023 maps. And so as part of those maps, none of our open space areas that were part of Measure Q were modified or changed into higher severity zones. In the future, it may be, but at this time, it has not shown any impact.
Thank you. It's so hard to imagine that, because we've seen like even the fire that was just over the hill over by Deer Valley could have easily kind of just fed right into Deer Ridge and the open spaces that we've got there. So it's kind of been on my mind a little bit. The other question I have is around the erosion and sediment control for grading. And I know we've got developments coming in that have potentially grading involved. And so I was curious what is the policy to make sure that grading is done in a safe way that's not going to cause any problems for landslide, if you will, any kind of fire abatement that's going on with that? regarding keeping the slopes unstable, or stable, I should say?
So for specific guidelines for grading, a lot of that is looked at as part of the civil plans and the subdivision maps, but it's also looked at as part of the CEQA process. And so a lot of projects, the majority of the city is actually infill. We do have some of our perimeter areas that have higher hillside areas, such as potentially Bridal Gate and some of the properties off of the Sand Creek extension that may come into play, but the majority of the city does actually have very little grading. But we do look at that and consider that as part of the civil improvement plans that we look at through the process, as well as the CEQA process.
Okay, and I actually think the rest of it will be in discussion. Thank you.
Councilman Orlemans.
Just a quick question. Having watched the Planning Commission meeting when it took place and the question was brought up by Vice Chair Spaulding about the defensible space on housing, have we been able, what have we done to work towards that?
So currently we are trying to incorporate some defensible spaces into our objective design standards for future guidelines. However, we have seen that projects that have been coming in within the last year or two that are not subject to those guidelines have been voluntarily trying to use more drought-resistant landscaping and have some separation buffers. Developers, I think, are seeing the climate. They need to be able to sell homes that can be insured. And so I think that although we currently cannot require some of the requirements that we're looking to, they are voluntarily being followed to some degree.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further clarifying questions of staff? Seeing none, at this time, I will open the public hearing. I turn to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public present in the chambers and on Zoom are permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comments from the chambers. Then on Zoom, remarks are limited to 5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this item. And we received no written public comments for this item. I have no speaker cards, and I see no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. At this time, we will close public comments, and I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. We have a first and a second and a third, it sounded like. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. At this time, discussion, council discussion on this item.
I'm just mad it's more money we have to spend on a state mandate. I'm sorry, it's just, at the end of the day, we all know what we have to do. Like, our staff would have done it, like, make sure they do everything right anyway. But it's just more money to pay more consultants and take money away from our residents and our employees.
And I actually did think I'm rewording this one as a question. I think I would like some clarification of evacuation and emergency access in developments as it kind of overlaps with the circulation policy, where the safety element ends and the circulation policy begins, or how they overlap. Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Myers. Great question. Oh, no, sorry. Regarding the emergency vehicle access requirements, so I would refer to the engineering procedures manual. Within that manual, it's a published document with City Council approval that indicates the minimum requirements for access. So generally, if I recall correctly, for subdivisions with 25 or more single-family homes, that's where a second point of access is required. So it's through there. And in addition, the fire district, I believe, as well, when they review our projects, they have a lot of input into making sure there's enough access points to their satisfaction as well.
Thank you.
This time, do I have? Yes, I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to say that the staff report was just spot on, and that's why you don't have much for me on discussion, and thank you for the report. I got to sit on some other stuff in the county from organizations that have had to do this based on this code section change. And so thank you for the time you put into this. Thank you.
And I want to say, I discovered another thing I'm a geek about, and I didn't know. I was really interested in reading all the geology of it. It just was really fascinating to me, and I had no idea I was interested in that sort of thing until the staff report. So thank you for giving me something really interesting to read in a staff report. And with that, should I make a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve a resolution approving the general plan amendment of the safety element.
Second?
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it is moved. Item G2. The next item is related to fee updates for sidewalk vending. And Michelle Morey our accounting manager, will present. Hi, Michelle. Haven't seen you in a while up here.
And members of the City Council. On March 12th, Community Development brought forth a new chapter to the Brentwood Municipal Code, Chapter 5.64, Sidewalk Vending. With Council's approval of the chapter, the associated fees need to be adopted into the cost allocation plan. In order to implement the new chapter, tonight we are presenting a proposed sidewalk vending permit application fee, a proposed sidewalk vending permit fee, and associated administrative fines. The first fee is the sidewalk vending permit application fee. The sidewalk vending permit application is quite lengthy and requires the applicant to provide many supporting documents, and per Brentwood Municipal Code, the application fee is non-refundable. Therefore, to initiate the process, we propose a nominal fee of $25 based upon an initial estimated 15-minute review to verify completeness of the application, that all required documents are attached, and proper signatures are provided. This preliminary fee structure is designed to minimize the financial burden on applicants, ensuring that they are not obligated to remit the full permit fee prior to the confirmation of approval. The city reviews and updates fees on an annual basis, with most fees adjusted by the annual Consumer Price Index, the CPI, change. Staff proposes the sidewalk vending application fee not be subject to annual increases. Following the initial assessment, the application will undergo a thorough review, modestly estimated to require approximately 1.5 hours, contingent upon the submission of valid and accurate paperwork. Upon successful approval of the application, the applicant will be prompted to pay the proposed permit fee of $135. Subsequent to payment, staff will proceed with the issuance of the sidewalk vending permit. Staff are proposing to adjust the sidewalk vending permit fee by CPI beginning July 1st, 2025. However, Council has discretion to direct staff otherwise. The application fee and the permit fee are fixed costs. Therefore, regardless of any additional staff time needed to process the application, the fees remain the same. The Municipal Code Sidewalk Vending chapter outlines the penalties for violations. If a valid sidewalk vending permit holder is in violation of the chapter, administrative fines in the amounts not to exceed are listed on this slide. On the fourth or subsequent violation, the city may rescind the vendor's permit. Community development staff will perform outreach and provide education to sidewalk vendors before enforcement of the code. If a person is engaging in a sidewalk vending without a valid city sidewalk vending permit, the not to exceed administrative fines from the municipal code are listed on this slide. Upon proof of a valid city-issued permit, the administrative fines will be reduced to the amounts noted on the previous slide. Failure to pay sidewalk vending administrative fines will not incur any additional fines, fees, or assessments. And again, community development staff will perform outreach to the sidewalk vendors before enforcement of the code. The adoption of the proposed sidewalk vending permit application fee and the proposed sidewalk vending permit fee are recommended to cover reasonable costs associated with services provided by the city. However, City Council has the discretion to set the fee at an amount less than the estimated cost. The administrative fines are outlined in the Brentwood Municipal Code, but must be adopted before code violations can be enforced. In closing, I'd like to thank the City Council for their direction, and staff from both Community Development and Finance are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michelle. Any clarifying questions of staff at this time?
I have a question. Once someone does receive the sidewalk vending permit and are approved for it, if they have the permit and then subsequently attend an event that requires a special use permit, will they then have to be permitted again in another, like, so will we have double charges, double permitting necessary?
No. So you mean a special event such as a farmer's market or some other permitted special event? No. So the sidewalk vending license is good for, it's an annual license. So if they are approved and as part of a special event, they don't need a separate sidewalk vendor license for that. There's also permission exceptions in the ordinance that council adopted earlier this year, that if a sidewalk vendor were participating in the farmer's market just for one time only, they don't need to get a sidewalk vending license just for that one-time event.
Thank you. And then as to, my last question was as to like the administrative fines, at some point, can we put a moratorium on multiple violations? So a moratorium on their ability to get another permit within the next year or years after that?
It is actually in the municipal code that if their permit is rescinded and taken away, that they have to wait until that permit had its original expiration date, and then they can reapply again.
I guess what I'm asking, thank you, because I didn't know that part. But what if they were at month number 12 and it was a time to renew?
Mm-hmm.
Could we do an even further moratorium outside of the municipal code to disallow them to just wait a month later to go ahead and reapply?
So the way the ordinance is written, whether or not someone gets a sidewalk vending license is up to the finance director upon review of the application materials. So it is not a guaranteed right just because you've applied. So if you, at the finance director's discretion, if there were concerns that this person was not upholding public health and safety, for example, if that's the reason that their license was revoked or rescinded, and that was the 11th month of their license, they may not be granted a license the next year at their application, depending on the reason it was rescinded. So it's at the discretion of the finance director.
Thank you.
Okay, any further clarifying
Yes.
questions? Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Can you clarify what the community development outreach education plan is going to look like?
Certainly. So this is a population that we don't necessarily have records of today because they're not required to have business licenses, or they don't have this license today. So it's going to be a lot of hands-on outreach out in the field, contacting the vendors that we see. Evenings work will probably have to be done. We're just going to be making contact. We're having bilingual flyers printed. We will have social media posts and that sort of thing, but this group is most likely ones that we're going to have to find in person and make them aware of the new regulations.
Okay, thank you. In looking at the cost comparison, Brentwood versus other cities, I'm guessing that Brentwood is that much more expensive because the review process is going to be complicated, but can you clarify a little bit about that, please?
We based the costs on two different factors. One factor was that the applicant was going to come into the city or go online and enter it through our e-tracket system that community development uses. And the other one fee was going to be that staff had to help them. What we based this fee on is actually that the staff, the applicant is coming in and doing their own work on it, and it's not safe. So we did the lower fee on it to begin with. It is just a multitude of reviews because it goes through both community development and finance staff, because there's different pieces in the ordinance that they are experts at and that we are experts at.
Okay. And really the goal here, just to clarify, is to cost recovery. It's not revenue generating.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further clarifying questions? Seeing none, at this time, I will now open the public hearing. I'll turn to you, Margaret.
At this time, the public present in the chambers and on Zoom are permitted to address the city council on this agenda item. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comments in the chambers, then Zoom. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item after the timer has expired, and we receive no written public comments on this item. I have no speaker cards, and there's no hands raised in Zoom.
Okay, at this time, we will close public comments, and I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
It is moved. Our council discussion. I just want to thank staff for this. We have a lot of awesome vendors that we have access to, that many of them are residents, and giving them a way to safely protect themselves and for us to protect our community as well. It's really a relief to be able to have everyone involved protected legally. That's very nice, so thank you. Do I have a motion on this item?
I move to approve a resolution amending the fiscal year 23-24 cost allocation plan and schedule of city fees to implement fees related to sidewalk vending.
I second that motion.
A first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Moving on to our business item, item H1. This item is related to the Sand Creek Sports Complex, and Bruce Mulder, our Director of Parks and Recreation, will present. Bruce.
All right, good evening, Mayor. Actually, we have Aaron Wanden, our Park Maintenance Manager, who will present this item. Thank you.
Hello, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. The item before you is actually a three-part recommendation that the Park and Recreation Commission had approved at the May 23rd Park and Recreation Commission meeting. Item number 1 is officially naming the sports complex the Sand Creek Sports Complex. This recommendation meets the requirements of Council Administration Policy 50-1, naming dedications of facilities by naming the facility in a manner that will provide an easy and recognizable reference for the city's customers, as well as its geographical location, which is at the corner of Sand Creek Road and Fairview Avenue. Item number 2 of this item is the dedicating and naming the championship field, which is field number 1, in memory of Ceci Martinez. At one of the community input meetings held on March 9th, 2023, numerous residents spoke and requested to dedicate the facility in memory of Ceci. Ceci was a beloved teacher and soccer coach within the community. She graduated from Liberty High School and attended Cal State East Bay. She was very active in the community of Brentwood and taught and coached numerous students and athletes throughout her life. And staying consistent with the current dedicated ball fields we have at Sunset Park, the championship field number 1 at the Sand Creek Sports Complex will have a memorial sign with Ceci's name and a brief description, which is exactly similar to the signs we currently have out at the Sunset Sports Complex. Staff will work, upon approval tonight, staff will work with the applicant on the final design of the memorial sign and dedication ceremony as the time nears. Item number 3 for this recommendation is approving the design for a team photo area. The project's design firm Verde Design sent staff several concepts for this area. This area is identified as the park signage art at Plaza area and the 95% design estimate. The area has always been included in the overall budget for the project. This has just come to our attention as the design firm noted we're coming to the 100% plans, so we absolutely need to make a decision on the design, and the actual name of the park is kind of critical because as you see in your packet, the design mentions Sand Creek Sports Complex as well as Brentwood down in front. So that does, oh, thank you, Amanda. The design you see on the screen, but again, you have in front of you, is the overall design that the Park and Rec Commission approved and is recommending for approval tonight by council. Myself and our project services specialist, Elaine McGurk, are here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any clarifying questions of staff? I have a question, and I recently was at a memorial stadium, and there was a digital, the little, what do they call the little digital QR? Thank you, codes. And on this statue, they had a QR code that when you put on it, it would show videos of the individual that they were honoring that you could see on your phone. And it had pictures of their family, things that they had been involved in. Is there any way that we could do something like that?
I'm making a note as you were speaking. I think that's a great idea and something we can certainly look into as we move forward, assuming it's approved, and work with the applicant.
Okay. Any further? Vice Mayor?
Can you put up the that slide again, please? Thank you. To clarify, it looks like a ball right next to where it says Sand Creek. On the other side, is that also a ball?
Yes, so what you see in the photo is a large ball that kicks off the Sand Creek and then a smaller ball at the end of the sign. That's basically a seat wall with an elevated sign depicting the Sand Creek Sports Complex. One of the selling points Verde was explaining to us as well is it's really free advertisement because these teams are going to take photos underneath this beautiful sign advertising Sand Creek Sports Complex. So to answer your question though, yes, 2 balls.
Okay, thank you. And the budget for this was $75,000, which you've said was actually already part of the overall budget?
Yes, the original budget had $50,000 for it, so
Okay.
we can work with the design firm on those
Okay.
numbers.
Could art funds be used for this?
No, it doesn't meet the criteria for the art funding source. To utilize the art funding, it would have to go through the Arts Commission and actually be designed by an artist.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a lot more involved to be able to utilize the art funding.
Got it. Thank you. As far as the Ceci Martinez, which I think is a beautiful idea, how do we make sure her recognition is unique and special? If she's, for example, if we do move forward with the idea of naming field number 1 after her, what's to prevent other people from saying, I want field 2, I want field 3, and them all looking the same?
All I can say is we can just cross that bridge when we get there and take these applications one at a time, but certainly take those into consideration. As I had mentioned, we will work with the applicant on the specifics of this design and what the sign will say for Ceci, and we'll just have to take it into account as they come. We still have a couple fields at Sunset that have not been named,
Okay.
just to throw that out there as well.
Okay. And then you mentioned a sign. I didn't see that in there, although I might have missed it. What do you have in mind as far as a a plaque or a sign, of course, including the digital QR code the mayor mentioned.
The signs out at Sunset are like a metal sign that has the etching of the individual in them, and then just a brief little history, probably similar to what I talked about tonight. But again, we'll certainly work with the applicant to add and customize that sign for SESI.
Okay. And then there would be, of course, some sort of dedication ceremony, which is what the kids are asking for.
Absolutely, and that was part of the Park and Rec Commission's action item, was to make sure we have a dedication ceremony.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? And just a quick question, were you hinting that you might want an Aaron Wanden field over into just, just curious?
Who's to argue with the mayor, right? So.
If there's no further discussion, do I have a motion on this side?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you. At this time, we'll open public comment. Margaret.
At this time, the public present in the chambers and on Zoom are permitted to address the city council on this item. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand to speak under public comment. If you're in person, please file a speaker card. We'll take public comments from the chambers, then Zoom. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes. Your microphone will be muted if you speak on items that do not pertain to this agenda item after the timer has expired. And we received no written public comment for this item. I have one speaker card in person. Ian?
You not want me to talk, Mayor? I just want to say good job to Aaron. I now have a home field advantage. My dad's the vice chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, but I'm talking as a resident. This park is really cool. I really like the name of Sand Creek Sports Complex. At first, it sticks to Sunset Athletic Park, which guess what? It's on Sunset Road. Something we were talking about at home is if you type in Sand Creek Sports on Google Maps, you don't need Google Maps to get to it. You just go on Sand Creek Road and there you'll find it eventually. Take you a while. But I want to, just express support for the project. Really love naming the field CC Martinez, and the team photo area is amazing. Again, great job to Elaine and Aaron on the project. Great job to the Parks and Rec Commission. Yes, I'm being biased to my own dad. Please tell him I said that. That's right. Thank you. And now, Mayor, I'm not going to forgive you for not letting me speak.
I have one hand raised in Zoom. Rod, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. I just have a quick comment. The idea of the soccer fields here at the Sand Creek complex is to enhance the financial status of the city by encouraging soccer tournaments, families coming in, getting all that revenue from people staying at hotels, maybe revenue from the tournaments themselves. I think the primary purpose of this thing, and the reason why a lot of us as taxpayers were behind it, is because we look forward to the city having these soccer tournaments and having the revenue and the recognition and hopefully some money that can go into more parks. And so with that in mind, I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be better to call it the soccer complex instead of just the sports complex, or somehow work soccer into the name of it. Because if a family is coming in out of town and they want to know where to take their kid to play soccer, they might Google Brentwood soccer or soccer complex or soccer something. They may not necessarily be looking for a sports complex. So that was my only comment on it. I just think you need to work the word soccer in there, because it's for the public that's not in Brentwood to be able to find it for their soccer tournaments. And that's all I had. Thank you so much.
I have no additional hands raised.
At this time, we will close public comments, move into council discussion.
I'm the sports complex portion of it. I understand what Rod is saying, but I think we decided it's going to have lacrosse lines and soccer lines, so it's dual purpose. If it was only one sport, I would see that it would be okay, but because it's dual, I don't know if we should name it soccer, because then we're kind of undermining our lacrosse people. And then the other thing is just I just can't stress enough. We do a lot up here. This feels really good. And if you don't know, Ceci has a young toddler daughter when she passed away, and her fiance Jesus, and I am sure they are very happy that the city can do this for them. So again, we do a lot of crazy stuff up here. A lot of it is, it's just, we go through the motions. This one is, means a lot. So thank you to everyone on Planning Commission and anyone on staff who's worked on this. I'm happy she's getting the #1 field. Thank you.
I just, again, I do want to greet her fiance and child. I've had the opportunity to talk to quite a few people that she impacted their lives tremendously. And she is really, Brentwood is so fortunate to have so many amazing people that we get to call friends and neighbors. And she truly was an outstanding influence in our community, especially with our young people. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that we'll be naming it the first field after Ceci as well. Do I have a motion on this item?
All right, I move to approve a resolution. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry, I was back to Helen Myers. It's really nice. Okay. I move to approve a resolution officially naming the sports complex the Sand Creek Sports Complex. 2, dedicating and naming the championship field in memory of Ceci Martinez and approving the design for the team photo area.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
The item moves. And we're moving into requests for future agenda items. Are there any new requests for future agenda items at this time?
So there was a grand jury investigation in Stockton, and it was something that we might need to look at someday, but it's just about the dysfunction. And I think we do have some slight dysfunction, but I feel that some of our dysfunction is caused by social media platforms that choose to divide the city. I've seen it in Antioch. I've seen it in Stockton. I see some of it in Oakley. And the grand jury said today, externally, individuals utilizing a social media platform have consistently attempted to undermine local democratic process by misleading the Stockton electorate and attempting to affect election results through unethical influences. So in Stockton, they're going to have to look at ways to manage the way they deal with the media and social media. There is a Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics that the grand jury suggested that they follow. And I would like to discuss in a future agenda item, what media outlets do we give press releases to? What media outlets are we spending money with? And if we're choosing to spend money and share information, then they should be held to the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics as well. So I would like to bring that forward so we can have a code of ethics, because I don't think we can be supporting via a relationship or via advertising dollars any media outlet who's choosing to divide this city, which I have seen, and I've seen it recently. I'm just not going to stand for it. So that's my agenda item.
And I was planning on being a second to that, but we did not do it in writing. We certainly can go back and do that. I read the article that Councilmember Mendoza is talking about, and I do think it's absolutely justifiable for us as a city to require that any media platforms that we work with follow those guidelines and are willing to state publicly that they do, and that they actually publicly do follow those guidelines. I think it's important if we're spending our money, and as was mentioned, sending press releases and other information, that we follow the ethics that are outlined by that as well. Thank you.
Additional requests?
I have a request that we make the 2 ad hoc committees of the Age and Disabilities and the Debbie Committee standing committees.
And I have one as well. And I can second that too, for that matter. But I don't know if you need me to, but I'd be very happy to do that. I think that discussion is kind of overdue, actually. So mine is around partially an email that we received about concerns about traffic, but also because I know we all watch planning commission meetings, but I know that there's been some items, some agenda item requests from the planning commissioners that have taken a while to come forward. And so what I would like to do is request the 3 that I'm pretty sure are outstanding, an update about when they're actually going to come forward. One of them was the traffic concerns due to increased school population and the new shade development on Grant Lane and Oak Grove. One of them was the changing the public notice from 300 feet to 1,000 to match the disclosure and recusal requirements that councils face. So if it's going to impact a council member, if it's up to 1,000 feet, then it should also be publicly noticed, developments, et cetera. And then the third, I remember it being an agenda item from Planning Commissioner Rod Floor, but I don't recall the exact wording. I just know it had something to do with open space. So I think in general, what I'm asking for is an update on the open agenda item request for planning commissioners and a timeline for when they can expect to see those come to council. Thank you.
Okay, any further new requests at this time? Seeing none, I need a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, before you motion, I failed to do something at the very beginning. I'd like to just take 1 minute to thank, while she's on here, Amy Tilley from the Downtown Brentwood Coalition for all her hard work and diligence with Juneteenth. I really, really appreciate you, Amy, and the Downtown Brentwood Coalition for the punch card and for all your assistance. I want to thank the Rotary and the Chamber of Commerce. Really worked really diligently and worked really, really hard to make sure they support it. And I want to thank our 2 sponsors, Fremont Bank and John Muir Hospital. To make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.